Awesome. All right, you guys ready?
You fools.
Phone is silenced.
All right, here we go. Guardian Radio, episode 225. Welcome everyone to Guardian Radio, the first and longest running Destiny podcast on the net. You are tuned into episode 225. My name is Mark Turcotte. I'm broadcasting to you live from the top of the tower, set outside the European Dead Zone. And joining me this week, first up, from across the pod, our in-house lore master, James. My name is Bife. Bife, what's up, dude?
Wow, the end game is finally here. I think everybody's progressing pretty quickly, but I think it's also fair to say that Leviathan Raid, not to spoil, can be summed up in just 2 words. Frickin' epic.
I was gonna say, holy crap! What are the 2 words?
The 2 words. I mean, you could say incredibly baller, frickin' epic, holy crap. There's quite a few 2-word phrases. Holy expletives are another couple of them. But yeah, no, dude, the end game is great. And I'll say this too, on the side note of Trials, also really well done, nicely revamped. Great feel to the 4v4. Long story short, the end game is good.
Agreed.
Good.
Very wonderful.
Good. Let's see. Next up, from inside his closet, safe and sound, back from a Hurricane 5 or Category 5 hurricane from inside the eye of the storm. My morning fire team brother, K-Dub. K-Dub, what's up, dude?
Dude, that was one hell of a week. And I said to Mark, we were texting because I barely had any cell service at the time. I had to drive somewhere to get cell service. I've been in Florida over 20 years. It's the first time I was ever scared. And I said, dude, I've never missed a show, though. Literally, since the day I've been on Guardian Radio, I have never missed a show. I've done the rundown, and I've never missed a show. He goes, I think a Category 5 hurricane's a good enough excuse. I was like, this sucks. But it was really, really scary. We were really, really lucky. We only lost one little section of our lanai screen, which was lucky for us. We were only out of power for not even 2 days. There are other people in the county that still do not have power, including my ex-wife, which doesn't really, well, I won't say anything, but we were really, really lucky. I just got to say that because the eye of the storm, eye wall hit us direct. It was over 145 mile an hour winds.
Jeez,
anywhere you go in our county looks like a war zone. Every single tree is uprooted and bent over and ripped up, and it's pretty scary. We're still on boil water notice. We can't, so we're everything, even to wash our hands and brush our teeth and wash our face, whatever, you got to use bottled water. So it's still pretty gnarly out there, but we're starting to get back to regular. But it was a pretty scary time, dude. Pretty scary.
Yep. Well, we're good to have you back, man.
You're safe, dude.
Yeah, man.
And I know this month's CBD is probably going to be great because it's going to be all hurricane stories.
Oh, yeah, I got plenty of those, believe me.
Not to make light of what happened, but was there a hurricane party at your place?
I don't know if I put a tweet out of my hurricane chest, and I said Cade 6's stash has got nothing on me. And you open this giant cooler, and it's all bottled water, beer, and some Cokes. And it was nice. There was a lot of beer.
That's awesome. Let's see. And finally, co-host of Gamertag Radio and mine and K-Dub's fellow Guardian 1 member, our good friend, Mr. Parris Lill. Parris, what's up, dude?
Hey, thanks for having me on again. And just like K-Dub is saying, my entire family's in the Tampa, St. Petersburg area. So it was a weird being out here in California and getting all the news about what was going on because I grew up there and my mother never was afraid of a hurricane. We always stayed. Yep. This was the first time they were all like, we're getting out of here. Everyone got out. So I even being out here, I was very nervous for what was going to happen. And my sister just got power back. That's how long it's been out. So, So, and it wasn't even the direct hit that everyone thought. So thank God everybody wound up being okay. Mm-hmm. But again, thank you guys for having me on the show. Yep. And, Bife, I'm going to say something controversial. This is my least favorite raid.
Ooh, very nice.
We got lots to talk about. Before we get into that, we're going to talk about, we got lots of chat, which, by the way, brings up a good point. I do want to point out to people here tuning into the show right now, either on the recorded version or over on Twitch or YouTube. We are going to talk about the raid tonight. So if you do not want to hear anything about the raid, if you're not there yet, if you want to stay spoiler free, now's the time to shut this off because we are going to be talking about the raid tonight as well as Trials too. We're going to be diving into the raid, the lore of the raid, the encounters in the raid. So if you want to stay spoiler free and you haven't done it yet, this is your first and only warning to not tune in,
right.
because we will definitely be diving into it tonight. But of course, don't forget our usual housekeeping. Check out our website, theguardiansofdestiny.com. You can always email us, feedback at theguardiansofdestiny.com. We got some emails coming up a little bit later on the show. One of the best ways to keep in touch with us, of course, is over on Twitter at GuardiansofD. So be sure to follow us over there. We're always retweeting Sean's videos and that, which unfortunately Sean couldn't be here. I think he has the Leviathan plague going on. He's on all kinds of medicine. He's got inhalers, all kinds of stuff going on. So send your love to Sean for sure. But he'll be back next week, most definitely. And a big what's up to everybody over on Twitch, twitch.tv/Guardian Radio. We do the show live on Monday nights at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. And if you can't catch it there live, but you want to see the video version and see our shenanigans in the tower or the raid or wherever we are, you can find it over on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/GuardiansofD. And of course, don't forget to check out the other podcasts here on the Guardian Radio Network, including Ghosts and Echoes, our audio drama podcast, which features our audio grimoire from Destiny 1. And I will say, Craig, our resident rockhound, was tweeting with some people this week about Destiny 2, and I did chat with him a little bit recently about Destiny 2. So I'm hoping we're going to get Craig probably on the show here in a couple weeks, because I know he has some things to say about the rocks on some of these locations, especially Io. I know he's a little leery about the fossils that are going on in Io, and I don't know. He'll fill us in on it. Don't forget to check out the other shows like the Guardian 1 podcast. Our good buddies over there from our clan do their show every week. And, of course, our lore-focused show, Focus Fire Chat, where those guys are talking about bits of lore every single week. And with the raid out, with Destiny 2, they have tons of topics to be talking about soon. So, boys, let's move on here. Let's get into it. We have not maybe tons of news, but lots of impressions on the game. So let's move in here to our new segment that we call Dispatches from the Traveler. All right, boys. Well, the raid is out. The Leviathan raid is here. It has been deployed. There is a world's first. Where do you guys want to start? Who wants to take it off? I don't even know where to begin.
I want to start with one quick story about King Gathalion and his group. Actually, no, never mind. That wasn't the raid. That was Trials. That's a different thing. That's a different thing. So as far as I was watching the raid, I was watching like everybody else. We were trying to do it, and once we got through the first bit, which we'll talk about the parts here in a bit. But once we got past that, we achieved that goal. We got to the second part and looked at it. We had been in there for 4 hours, and we ran out of time, and so we kind of backed out. And I started watching some streams, and Goth's group was, T-Rex and those guys. They were right there at the end and had the boss to like literally nothing, and they got the boss to nothing, and he does his last animation, and they all wiped and had to do it over. And then very next time they got it, but it ended up causing them to not get world's first. They got third. And the people that we were about to quote here on the from the tweet that Bungie put out got world's first. And so it was just literally one little animation from T-Rex and those guys getting world's first. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
It's nuts to watch. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Congrats to the guys from the legend himself. That was the first clan to drop Callus, of course. And who was in that? There was Skullix, Dominic X, Epic Cookies, Lil Noah, SC Slayerage, and Ever were the first ones. But what do you guys think of this raid? If you're tuning in here on YouTube or on Twitch, we're spawning into the space here. I mean, we've been speculating for a long time that it was the city on top of the worm-looking thing up in the sky that you could see here that's in the Collector's Edition. And I mean, when you spawn into this place for that first time, I mean, it is just epic with all the gold and all that. I mean, Parris, what were your first impressions when you went in here and saw everything?
I mean, my first impressions, like we're looking at it right now, I love the artwork. I love what they've done creating this giant palace that we have to walk into. Very impressive. I mean, it's awe-inspiring. I mean, you can tell Bungie has learned a lot the past 3 years with their raid design, and this was just the culmination of that. I'm very impressed.
I agree.
Yeah.
I gotta say as well, there's like so many multi-tiered elements that let you sit here and believe exactly what this thing functions as. Like, take a look at raid number 1, Vault of Glass, right? The function is nebulous, and realistically it's just like, okay, big cavern with a ton of X in it. This feels as though it's exactly what it's advertised as. It's a palace. From the very beginning, you've got these 8 Cabal here, and if I just walk up to them as I'm doing right now, if you're watching this on Twitch, needless to say, they're not attacking. They do not aggro to you unless you go ahead and swing a bat at them or something. And that's a very specific point, you're being welcomed as challengers, as entertainment. And what's even cooler is when you extend into the real underbelly of the raid, because there's the 4 encounters and the castellum and that bit where you open the door, basically. But even after that, there's this massive underside, this maze below the raid. And that's so cool because it shows you that, hey, this isn't just an area where you're seeing it. You get to see the real grotty underbelly where it's nothing but pipes and maintenance shafts and areas where the Leviathan is processing Nessus. And that makes the entire theme of this thing being set on a massive planet eater be so much more believable, because all of this, the opulent front, is just that, you know, like there is a real underbelly to this ship. It feels like a believable location. That's damn cool for a raid. Speaking of which, I don't know about you guys, but I'm actually going to go ahead and murder these Cabal in a
Don't
second.
do it.
Well, I mean, you know, I've been saying for years here on the show that we need that Cabal raid. I mean, many people know that the Cabal is my favorite race, really just because I love their music. The Cabal Stomp to me is just awesome. It's just epic. It's badass. And, you know, I think they couldn't have started this raid any better than having you walk in front of all these Cabal, just like honoring you and just watching you. You know, there was just something so badass about it. I remember we were all just scared to death. Like, do we walk by him? Do we not? What do we do? Like, it just setting up this encounter or the first encounter is just, it's so neat. I mean, we've had nothing like it. And to have the dialogue, you know, as you come up, I mean, that's one thing that we've never had in a raid before, is to actually have lore within the raid itself happening around us is just it's great, you know, as you're kind of going through it. And you know, it's cool that Callus is inviting us here to basically toy with us. I saw somebody put it up on Twitter. There's an X-Men villain arcade that basically, you know, sends the X-Men through these different trials and, you know, has them do these different danger rooms or whatever it is that he puts them in. And that's kind of what we're doing here. We're just here for Callus's enjoyment, essentially, which is so neat. You know, every other villain we faced in a raid has always been there basically to just destroy us and take our light and, you know, destroy Earth. Where here, he's just like, this is what I do. I go around and just toy with people, and that's what I need you guys to do and entertain us.
We learned a lot of lore in this raid. I mean, from the purple jelly to the gauntlet being a game show to the, you know, all this stuff that we learned is so cool.
Caleb, I was gonna just say the gauntlet is exactly that, and it fits right with what Mark is saying, right? Like, if you fail that encounter, if someone doesn't do the running part right, it literally says insert name here has failed to impress. Like, it is literally that. It's fucking wonderful.
It's a game show. It's so funny. It's all good.
Well, Parris, when you guys did your first run, how far did you make it? Were you able to go blind, actually, or no? Did you kind of have some people that had run it before?
I went blind-ish. I ran it with the guys over at PlayStation Nation, and a couple of them had done it before, but 3 of us never did it. So the other 3 tried to stay silent for the most part. They had done up until the dogs, so everything past the dogs we were blind on. And we got to the boss. We got to Callus, and then things happened. and
of course, as they always do.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at. I'm right at Callus. I just need to finish it, hopefully tonight.
We will do that.
Well, I think it's so cool how before every encounter you have to basically open the door. You know, and even though it's kind of this rinse and repeat process that you have to do, I think it's cool. It's like still just testing you. He's like, all right, well, you passed that trial, open the door again. Like, he's forcing us to constantly be doing something. You know, to open those doors. And we made it into the bather section, and what happened? We got kicked to orbit, didn't we, Caleb?
Yeah,
and we all spawned back in, and we had to open the door again. We're like, what? It doesn't checkpoint, thinking that was an encounter. But then once you beat the bathers, you come back out and you're like, wait a minute, we have to do this again. And then you're just like, okay, I get the flow of how this goes. But what do you think of the mechanics? I think of let's talk about. I guess we can talk about just kind of opening the door. I mean, it took us. That was the one that actually didn't take that long for us to figure out.
Right.
And once you kind of, the symbols are kind of popping up there, and you know, these symbols are something that's a constant throughout the whole raid. You know, and people are calling them blades or axes. You have the beast, you have the sun, and then the chalice. You know, I love Luke Smith's the way that each encounter teaches you something for the next encounter. Like, the whole reason really of us opening those doors is to learn those
4 symbols,
the symbols, right? Because that's a constant throughout the whole raid, and it's teaching you as you're going. So going in blind into this one, I think I almost felt a little bit smarter in some of these encounters, because we were able to like figure some of this stuff out. Like, it didn't seem as obtuse as some of the raids in the past. I don't know.
So the interesting thing, I'm sorry, but I was just gonna say, the interesting thing too is in 2 of the 3 or 4 encounters, it's the thing that you're calling out is the thing that you don't do.
Right.
So it's just funny, like, you know, if it's we'll talk about the different encounters, but it was one of those things like in the gauntlet, whatever the one that they call out is the one you don't shoot. So then you're calling it out, but you accidentally shoot it because that's the one you're calling out. It's so hard to do, is to kind of think in the negative. But that's a recurring theme in the raid. It's kind of funny. It makes you think, but it's pretty cool. But go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, aside from anything else, what I do love is that point that you make about continuous progression, which they have down. Since Wrath of the Machine, they've really nailed this, but with this, I think it's so well done because every single one of the elements to the raid is introduced to you by the time you've hit Gauntlet, right?
Yeah.
So we talk about the 4 symbols, but also psionic projections, the counselors, everything with regards to the orbs that you need to pick up or basically jump into to trigger certain special things within the raid. Yep. Those are basically the other 3 big elements to this, and all of them get taught to you. And then, of course, the final boss introduces its own unique mechanics on top of that. But that's what's so wonderful about the raid design in Destiny. They have this really great tendency of doing just that. They take one encounter, which is very simple, like, say, the basic Baths one, which just introduces you to those symbols, nice and easy. But then, after all that's said and done, you get to add more layers of complexity over and over and over, and it means that each successive section of the raid feels good. Aside from the frickin' pleasure gardens where never has pleasure been found. I say that, but it's become one of my favorite sections of the raid, most hilariously.
Yeah, there were no happy endings in the pleasure gardens, let me tell you.
Yeah, a pleasure to be. I woke up and I left a tweet being like, the most distinctive thing I remember from this damn raid is that no pleasure was found in the pleasure gardens. I did not expect that to resonate so well with everybody.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, I think that's one of the neat things about this raid is like, it's not as DPS heavy, I think, as other raids have been in the past. Of course there are DPS phases and, the boss is difficult in that, but it seems like this one more than any before is so much more mechanics and communication focused.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of that has to do with, the way that they want guided games to work, right? They want to be able to have teams be able to bring in people, teach them the mechanics, even if they are still a little bit low level, but still let those people be able to accomplish it and feel, accomplished by the end of the raid and be able to finish it. I mean, what do you think about that, Parris? Do you agree with that it's more mechanic heavy or?
Oh, 100%. It's more mechanic heavy, and obviously communication is vital in doing this. I felt like they obviously took a lot of cues from King's Fall in that regard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because, like you said, going through it the first time, I kind of alluded that, this was my least favorite raid, and it isn't so much because of the mechanics or the communication standpoint of it. It's because I feel like we essentially only truly have one boss.
I agree. That's my big problem with it too.
And I wanted more. I wanted that King's Fall feel to it where I'm taking on Golgoroth or the War Priest, things like that, where every time it was like this epic encounter that I was having, or even with Wrath of the Machine towards the end, obviously when you fight Axis, that would just had this epic feel to it. And this, while mechanically I had a lot of fun, there was a lot of great moments in it, don't get me wrong, I just didn't feel that epic nature from this raid. And maybe that's just because of the tone that this raid was trying to take, where, like you're saying, Callus is inviting you into his challenges, his games. There's nothing at stake if you don't complete this raid. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make, where I feel like every other raid, there was always something at stake. Whereas this one, it's just, hey, it's Running Man 2017. Let's go play some games,
That's right.
The most dangerous game of running you've ever played. My God.
Let me ask you this too, Parris, because this is kind of my thoughts. I mean, I enjoy the raid. It's always fun doing the raid. But do you think even part of it, not only is it just because kind of what your thoughts on it there almost seem like it's somewhat story and lore focused, right? Is what's at stake with us here, us as Guardians having to defeat, this epic enemy. But is it also the fact that we're not getting drops like we used to? Like part of this used to be about, hey, let's get through this encounter, and you're guaranteed you're going to get that raid gun or a piece of armor or something out of it. Here, all you're getting are keys to use underneath in the underbelly, which are going to give you a legendary engram, which you could just go run a few public events and get one. So there's no point really in doing the raid and going under there. You're going to get some tokens, right, that you can use for the Emperor, which, you know, I don't want to spoil too much for some people, but I've seen Datto got 100 of those things or whatever. It's got, you know, the vendor you go to is, I mean, again, we call spoilers here, the sweeper bot, but you can get like I saw Datto had that, he got 100 of the tokens or whatever and got this special shotgun, right? So if you're grinding for that, that's one reason to keep running it.
Oh, no. Those are different. That's the Legend
is
of
that
Icarus.
different? Okay.
Yes, but no, regardless, it's
but I mean, that's what you're doing essentially. And there are some random drops that happen, like KW got the scout rifle, right, when we went. So I got have
the
a
scout
shot
and the auto. Yeah, I got the scout.
But then also, we have yet to see the clan raid engrams dropped.
We will tonight.
We can assume that if they drop like the trials engrams, I didn't run trials this week, go through it, but people in our clan did, and I got an engram and I got a trials weapon. And so are you now going to get...
Yeah, it works exactly like that.
Right. So to me, it's like, okay, you do the raid one. What is the point here? It's like they've taken kind of the appeal of running the raid over and over and over again. They kind of threw it out the window. To me, it seems that way. And I know it's fun, and I know the experience, and I know that people like to be Sherpas and that. It is still fun, and we're still going to run this raid. But to me, I think I'm kind of with Parris as to that's why it may feel a little less... important.
The only thing about the raid engrams, though, a lot of people in our clan have finished the raid, but we do not have that checked off on the clan box yet, because you have to have at least half of the raid team be clan members to get that. So tonight, like you have me and Parris, we finish it off, we'll get that. So yeah, but that was interesting, I thought. But I thought it was good. So a lot of time, like Sean said, being in Rezo, he's kind of like the biggest PvE Rezo person. So he gets benefits from the people running the PvP stuff, and the other PvP stuff, people get benefits from him running PvE stuff. So I think it's a really good symbiotic relationship. I like the way they did it. I like it. But
I mean, I think it is. I think it takes away that carrot a little bit from running it over and over and over. I don't know. If anything, if they want to keep those there, yes, but I think they should still put loot in the raid.
I'll tell you this though.
Yes.
The thing about trials though is, yes, you might get a weapon, but you're not going to get that, like these arms that I'm wearing from going flawless, you're not going to get that gear. You might get some guns that you're going to have to infuse up, but you're not going to get the flawless gear.
Yeah, it's worth noting that everything you do get does drop at 10 light, so you do need to infuse it, and it's not like you're just skipping the progression in terms of light level. But the other big thing I want to note about this raid in particular, and the loot for it, is the token system, because for like a destination it seems fine, but for here on the raid it seems just weird, right? What's the point of me getting a token, which I can redeem later for random loot, as opposed to random loot right here and now? It seems like there's a middleman in there, and it's kind of unintentional. I get the fact that it's a vendor is pretty cool, but even so, it feels unintentional. I think that what they should do there, if they want to have the tokens not feel like just wasted space in your loot, is maybe give you just a random choice of 3 whenever you level up with the vendor. Because then that means the tokens actually have value, as opposed to being like, you're just things I could have had, instead I got these damn tokens, it feels kind of like you're jumping through unnecessary hoops at that point.
You know what I think it is, Bife, is we've yet to see the challenge mode, quote unquote. And I mean, is there a challenge mode and then a prestige mode, or are we just going to get a prestige mode? Because from what we know about the Nightfall, prestige mode locks your loadout. So they cannot be dropping loot in the raid. So for me, that's what when I saw no loot dropping, I was like, that's why they're not dropping the loot.
Well,
because
no, dude,
when we go into prestige,
they addressed it, dude. Luke Smith addressed it on Twitter. He said quite specifically in a tweet, we do not have locked loadouts in raids. We do not want somebody saying, hey guys, I just got Midnight Coup, let me go to Orbit to switch that.
Yep.
So
that's right, but in the end, nothing's dropping anyway. So I don't.
Yeah, it's still a huge freaking problem, right?
No, we're gonna say that because nobody's gonna get that.
Well, let me say something to that. So something else that I'm noticing, talking about these clan engrams that we're getting. Notice that you're only getting guns. You're not getting armor. So with my raid completion, I got the helmet that I'm wearing, which that's the raid helmet. When I ran Trials Flawless, I got the arms that I'm wearing, which are the Flawless arms. So I think the only way you get the armor sets and the armor is from completing it yourself. You're not going to get the armor sets and the armor from those ones from somebody else completing it. You may get a gun that you're going to have to infuse up, but you're not getting the armor.
Gotcha. Parris, what you got on this, man?
I mean,
without loot dropping, how you feel?
I agree with everything that you guys are saying, because I look at it 2 different ways. Giving loot for as part of the clan rewards, I'm actually all for, because I think it gives an incentive to people that may be in your clan that were intimidated to do the raid to see some of the cool drops that you can get, be able to actually use it in the game, and maybe push them to want to do the raid as well. Same with Trials.
Yep.
As far as the tokens, and while we're actually playing the raid, it takes away my incentive to want to keep playing it over and over, because that was part of the appeal. Every week you'd want to jump in the raid because you want to get more gear, you want to progress. You know, there's obviously the fun factor that goes with it, but there's always that excitement that when you clear that boss, you have that instant satisfaction of, I just got that helmet I've been chasing for the past 3 weeks, or I just got that scout rifle I really wanted. Whereas now it's like, all right, I got more tokens. Cross my fingers that when I go to the tower, the sweeper bot will give it to me. You know, so I don't know. I actually hope that gets tweaked, but maybe like you guys are saying, maybe with challenge mode or prestige mode, whatever the case will be on that, maybe the way the loot drops will change. Hopefully.
Yeah, got to agree. And plus, like, dude, we haven't seen even half of the loot. Like hand cannons, sniper rifles, grenade launchers, sidearms, linear fusions, normal fusions. None of that stuff's dropping yet, so we've still got a ton of loot still to see on this.
Yeah, you're right. And I don't want people to walk away with me saying that, because, you know, I noticed you guys all commented on that. I think the clan engrams are bad. Like, to me, I think they're fantastic. Like, when I went in and I got a Trials gun and didn't even run Trials, I was like, holy crap, this is great. Like, this is awesome. To me, it was just kind of like, you know, for me as the player, what's my incentive going to be? You know, if you're going to be giving me that loot. But like Caleb said, if they're not giving you those armor pieces and it's just those weapons at a level 10, you know, the completionist of the collection person is still going to want to run those activities to get the complete set, in which, you know, that does need to be there. Just I just wish we had more drops in the raid. Like I really enjoyed that aspect of it, and to be able to power up through the raid as you're doing the raid, like that was always the best part, right? Was getting, oh, I got the new scout rifle that bumps me up a little bit. And here it just seems so few and far between, and it's just. Yeah,
I mean, we still have to figure out the full, you know, the way the loot table works.
The loot table, yeah.
But I think it was very depressing when I got to the second chest and I got coins. I'm like, what? I just had to go through all that for 3 hours, and I got.
Or no, you get the prompt that just says your glimmer's full.
Right, like, your glimmer is full. Right, what? Your glimmer is full.
We just did all of that, and you can tell me my glimmer is full. What?
Right. Yeah, so I was kind of really bummed about that. But so
they get you with the salt.
As we figure out, that is an awesome one. As we figure out the loot the table, I think, you know, I think it's just that. I think it's going to be, you only get armor from completions, doing it yourself, and that you can get weapons from, you know, other stuff, and then the Sweeperbot stuff, turning things in, you can get weapons. But I think, you know, the armor set, you're only going to get, same thing with Trials and with the raid, from doing it yourself. I think that's how it's going to work. But we'll see what happens when Prestige drops. So if when we do Prestige, maybe we get armor at every chest. I don't know. I mean, we'll have to see. So, you know, TBD, I guess.
Yep. All right. Well, let's move on here to Trials. Let's talk about Trials a little bit. And Caleb, you were kind of alluding to the fact about Goth and Broman. I wasn't on when that went live, and I tuned into, I think it was Goth stream and Broman stream, and they weren't in it yet. They were trying to get in, and then I saw Broman like tweeted at Bungie saying like, "What's wrong?
What the hell?" Yeah.
And it was because they never completed that first Shaxx
Correct,
quest.
Which they never said anything. They never told anybody that that's what you got to do to get in. I think they just assumed, like, who the hell
would do their milestones?
Well, of course, we had it completed like the first day. Like, well, how do you not do that? Like, you go to complete everything. So, and it was Crafty, it was Goth, Broman, and I forget who the fourth. There might have been T.
Wow.
And
they screwed themselves out of world first.
They went to. Yep, that's exactly right. And Lumi, by the way, got world's first. His group got world's first.
GG to Lumi.
Yep, absolutely. On Trials, but it was just, they were so salty. They couldn't believe it. They had to go spend like 40 minutes going through games doing the quest, the Shaxx quest, so they could access Trials. It was just so funny. And then right after they finally figure it out, Bungie puts out a tweet, "Oh, by the way," and it's probably because they were watching it. Probably because they were watching.
They were, yeah.
Right, and they're like, "Oh yeah, duh, you got to do this." But, you know, it's just one of those things, like, how to, you know, and I guess if you don't know, you don't know, but how do you not have that done already? But whatever, you know, it is, if you don't know, you'd think whatever, you know, those guys could just go sleepwalk through Trials. So, you know, whatever. But it was kind of funny. I mean, funny is probably not the right word, but it was interesting to see how, you know, Obviously Bungie should have maybe said something. Hey, by the way,
perhaps.
I think it was just one of those oversights that they just figured everybody's going to have those milestones done before they go try and access Trials. Who's going to try and access Trials before you know? But yeah, they didn't, and it was kind of crazy. So yeah.
Yep. Parris, I know you and your son play Trials a lot. Did you guys jump in?
Yeah, we jumped in and we got wrecked. We got absolutely wrecked while we were in there. But hey, you know, it's Trials. It's when we jumped in, I'm sure some of the most competitive people on the planet were playing. So we weren't discouraged or anything. But yeah, we'll be back in next reset.
Awesome.
I like that you can go to the social space even with one win.
Yeah, that was a nice feature.
So, because there were so many people that were complaining about not having the Grimoire last time for the lighthouse because you couldn't get there, and now you can get that and go to you're not going to go down the little purple butthole, but at least you can get to the social space and see the emissaries and stuff like that. So I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, Bife, were you pulsating when you saw the new space and the new floor? And I think out of anything in this game so far, it seems like that may be the thing that has like the most new stuff.
Unique space I've ever seen in any Destiny game, because there's literally nothing like it. And this is the thing that irritates me the most, but also intrigues me the most. In spite of the fact that there is so much new lore to do with the Nine, and in spite of the fact that we get an entire social space and we meet the emissary and all of this other stuff, I still can't tell anyone jack about the Nine, because that's just how well Bungie's kept this thing mysterious.
Secret, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's nuts, dude. It's a wonderful kind of nuts, don't get me wrong, but it's still totally nuts. Honestly, I've never seen something quite like this.
No, it was crazy.
It's totally bonkers.
Imaginations went wild when they were creating that stuff, let me tell you.
Oh yeah, it looks like something out of a trippy dream, but it's a wonderful trippy dream. It's so cool.
I tried to ride the horse so many times and it made me go back.
That's a flawless reference for those who don't know.
Now they did. I mean, overall, I think they made that social space at least more accessible to more people, right? Because don't you just have to get one win, right, to kind of be able to go there? At least maybe you can't go fully in there, but at least you can get in there to some extent, which is cool.
Yep.
And I think it's neat that you don't have to go buy a card. You don't have to do any of that stuff. It's just kind of there, which is cool. Again, this whole game is just quality of life. Everything they're doing with it is just quality of life stuff, which is cool.
I agree. Yep, absolutely.
Can I also just say how freaking amazing it is now that they've made it 4v4? But every single change they've made slows down the pace of combat, and now the slow pace of abilities means it's all about team shots, team shots, team shots, team shots.
Yep.
Like, there is a very good reason why people see nothing more than like full teams of Mida users in Crucible now, particularly with Trials. And it's because team shots are so important. Using your energy and your kinetic is much more important than using your power weapon or using, say, your grenades. Like, you can still tag an entire team with an arc bolt, but it doesn't matter if you can't get the follow-up headshots. It's just, it's so sad. I have not been this happy playing Crucible in literally years.
I agree.
It's so fun. It's so
not only that, I was really happy that Trials. I was really happy Trials was Countdown, because with all the practice that we had with Countdown, with the beta and everything, I was really happy about it. Countdown's absolutely been my favorite mode. I mean, it's just so much fun. I really dig it.
Parris, what do you think of the 4v4 in Trials? Now,
I absolutely love it. And, I was a big detractor of it back in May when they first revealed it. I'm like, why are they getting rid of 6v6? This is ridiculous. But playing through the beta and obviously the game being out now, I really love it. And like Bife was saying, it's about team shots now. I know some people aren't a fan of that, but it takes away some of the solo hero moments that you may have had in the Crucible in the past. But I'm really liking it. I do think Mida, because everyone's using Mida, I do think that is a problem. I'm sure there's going to be some kind of nerf that's coming along, but I purposely stopped using Mida. I used the Mida Mini tool, but Mida Multi I've stopped using, and I'm using things like Nightshade now just because I want to be different. I don't want to just use the same gun.
Nightshade was the OP gun in the beta. So.
Right, I know.
Yeah. That's what I use.
Yep.
It was good though. I love the map as well that they made. This is week 1, and obviously with Trials the map rotates every single week, but for a week 1 map, you can tell just even with the color palette that they selected for everything to do with Trials of the Nine, it's built for competitive, right? Like, you have everything in this matte white, and that's a really smart decision because the few bits that aren't in matte white get really distinctive callouts, right?
Yeah.
So you can have like a little red light by a wall, and then all of a sudden that becomes red wall. You don't need any further context to it. It's just nice and simple to it, and everybody knows exactly what it means.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about that too is that the areas of the map all feel different enough, you know? So there's like altar, for example. If I say that, you'll know that it's the area just in front of the clock, which is right over next to the temple spawn.
Do you know
And-
Ball Beach? There's Ball Beach.
Yeah, there's Ball Beach, which is just over to the left of that, because there's this big open space with a ton of balls there, where Mida is incredibly strong. You know, like it's the map is designed for easy callouts, and that's such a smart choice. I love the map already too, because there's no kind of, and don't get me wrong when I say this, because I love it when the maps pull from Destiny's environments and use really cool like color palettes and different object palettes as well. But my oh my, is it so freaking wonderful to see this thing have just like smoothed out edges, nothing weird or finicky like a plant can get in your way. It's just pure space built for competitive play. It's like it was built in Forge from Halo. It's wonderful.
It does. You know what? That's a good analogy, but that is almost what it looks like. Yep. What do you guys think? You know, we didn't mention how when the raid came out, they released a new map, a new PvP map.
Yeah.
Emperor's
I-
Respite.
Yeah, I mean, part of that obviously was, I think, just due to the aesthetic of the raid. You know, they wanted to keep a lot of that secret. But, you know, it almost has me wondering, are we going to be able to see that kind of moving forward? Are there other maps maybe that we don't know about right now that may be coming down the pipeline? Like, you know, almost had me wondering with like the faction rally that's going to be coming up. You know, will there be some sort of map kind of themed for the factions? You know, where it's kind of this whole not a faction party, but you know what I mean, where it just has kind of the banners all over the place. I think if they did something like that, that'd be pretty neat.
I've asked
Yeah.
for faction wars forever, so
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, take a look at like Bannerfall, right? If there was a faction to associate with that map, it's New Monarchy, because it's one of the sites of their famous victories. And there's all sorts of cool things you could do with that. You know, Dead Orbit could be on a ship. You could have Future War Cults one being in a Golden Age lab in Tibet, where there's like time travel machines that they've stolen, basically. You know, there's a whole ton of stuff that you can work around with the lore of the factions. Alternatively, just, you know, have one that looks kind of blue, red, and yellow for Future War Cult, or one that's white and red for New Monarchy, or one that's like an emo color palette or something for Dead Orbit. I don't know. Whatever takes your fancy.
emo color.
Come on, let's be real. Let's be real.
Funny. That's
Just
funny.
depressing.
That's exactly what Dead Orbit are. They're just edgelords that became guardians, okay? There's nothing more or less to it. They're just edgelords.
That's funny.
In the Crucible 2, they are updating it a little bit for the matchmaking. So if you're liking quick play, they say nothing's changing. Just continue to game on. But the competitive playlist is getting a little bit of love. They said too many players are getting stomped by opponents who grossly outmatch them. In order to match you properly with an opponent in your skill league, we need to apply your skill rating. So they've fixed that bug, or are going to fix that bug. And they say that if you've been getting your ass kicked in competitive, you'll have more of a fighting chance. And if you've been kicking ass in competitive, we're sending some more of your opponents your way. So that's cool. And you know, they actually had a big milestone today. I don't know if you guys, or this week, I don't know if you guys saw this.
1.3
million concurrent people playing, which is bonkers. I think, what was it? PUBG had like, I forget how many it was.
500,000 concurrents, I believe.
It's crazy. I think PUBG actually capped, I mean, Parris, you may know this. Do you know, did it cap Dota 2, I think, on Steam?
Yes, it did.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it
I
did.
think it did, right? Yeah, and that's at like 1 million or something like that, or whatever it is. But 1.3 million for, I mean, that's just bananas. You know, kudos to the Bungie team for just making an incredible game. That
Wait,
just,
but Destiny's
people
dead,
want
I
to
thought.
play.
What happened? I thought.
Yeah, I thought it was a dead game.
That's
Jeez.
what, yeah, what happened?
Guys, lying. It's like clickbaiting me, honestly. Unbelievable.
oh, clickbaiting.
Yeah.
Yeah, real quick here. Speaking of clickbaiting, yeah, I don't want to
Speaking of clickbait,
shed too much light on this, but some people tonight, you know, if you saw, there was an article posted by our I'm going to say friends over at Kotaku, posted an article about the Destiny is the worst game to play if you're a parent. And go check it out, you know, if you want to read it. But, you know, it couldn't be farther from the truth. I mean, I was actually talking to Derek, who is one of our original co-hosts here on Guardian Radio.
Yep.
And he was just saying just how more accessible it seems now. You know, you can do anything and you just level up. And, you know, if you read the article, it's more about, you know, the woman who wrote it, she has a newborn. So it's the fact that she has a newborn that any video game you play is going to be
Right.
impossible to
you
play.
can't even go
So-
watch a movie, let alone play a
so, I don't
video
know, it
game.
just had me
Like,
laughing, you know, and people on Twitter and Reddit are going crazy. Clickbait, Kotaku with the clickbait, which is what they're known for. You know, a lot of their stories and that. So it is what it is, but it had me cracking up.
Yep.
All right. Well, anything else you guys want to talk about? Trials or the raid?
I will simply say this. The final raid encounter with regards to the story elements that it drops, not only with the way that the boss evolves as you move through the encounter, but also with the dialogue that it says at the end just before it dies. Genius. Because my, oh my, does that create this satisfying ending. It creates it's wonderful, dude. It's wonderful. And it hints to what Callus really is.
We got to just say it right now. Those don't want to hear it. Don't listen.
Don't listen. Cover your ears. It's not really Callus. It's a robot. Yeah.
It's Chuck E. Cheese.
The end, when you go through the end and
Chucky
see
Kabul,
the slew of them, and you're like, oh my God. That was the funniest thing. And actually, it's funny. I was watching Goth's stream when they finished, because I was trying to see if they're going to get worlds first, and they got third. But when they went down the crazy hole, the portal, I mean, all these spaces are just amazing, by the way. The artwork is amazing. And they go in there and you see this just like Star Wars type, so many droids like coming off of a ship, and instead it's just all these calluses. You're like, what?
Yep. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's just so crazy.
I think somebody at Bungie's a Five Nights at Freddy's fan, because when you see that, that's all I could think about was like those little animatronic characters from Five Nights at Freddy's, man.
Oh,
it's
yes.
Funny.
I will say this too, man. The whole freaking thing, in terms of adding Callus's voice and dialogue throughout, was not only the biggest leap forward that raids have had in terms of adding dialogue or lore, but I think this is just the next step of evolution. I can't wait until these things are like raids in WoW, where you have actual characters along for the ride.
Yeah.
I want to go on a Warmind raid, and I want Cade along with the ride for us.
Yep.
And I want to have him pausing at different sections, being like, okay, it's fine. I'll hold this door. You guys go and kill the boss.
Right.
Also, save me some loot.
Right.
Please.
Yeah.
Like, no, seriously, save me some loot.
Right.
Like, you can have such a great encounter moment there. It's wonderful.
I agree. Yeah.
All right. Well, Caleb, let's move on here to our clan spotlight, part of the show where we help you guys find clans, because right now in Destiny 2, having a clan is pretty damn important.
You better know.
It definitely can help you get some loot. Like we said, even if you don't run trials or do the raid, clans will definitely help you out. So, Caleb, who do you got for us this week, man?
Yeah, so this week we have a clan called Town Called Malice. And it says we started off as random guardians posting on the Eurogamer forum, helping each other through endgame content before finally deciding to become a permanent fire team. We prioritize having fun and chasing shaders over anything crazy like reaching the lighthouse. Like Jar Jar Binks, we stumble, fall, and generally do most of the idiotic things, but we always beat the raids and have fun in the process. Unlike Jar Jar, we can be competent when needed, sometimes for a good while. We are 20 members right now, and we welcome anyone that wants to help us inadvertently save the universe. Only requirement is to have fun and accept that warlocks are space wizards. Warlocks are space wizards. We have at least 5 or 6 members, including myself, that are on daily. We raid weekly and always jump on events like Iron Banner. The contact that I got was just a Twitter contact, which is at Toland's Rancor, which is TOLANDS RANCOUR on Twitter. So there you go.
Nice. All right. So again, if you want to have your clan spotlighted here on the show, you can find the link down in our show notes. You can find it over on Twitch, or of course over on our website. We got a form you can fill out and send those in. You may have your clan heard here on the show. And again, if you're looking for a clan, there was one for you. So we're always putting them on all the different platforms. All right, boys, let's move on here to our final segment, the part of the show where we get you, our listeners, involved, that we call Messages from the City. All right, well, don't forget you can email us feedback at theguardiansofdestiny.com, just like Slade Steel Soul did. And he said, what's up, guys? Show's great. Community's great. D2 is great. With that out of the way, I wanted to discuss the farm. That's a neat little place with little things scattered throughout it, and I find enjoyable. However, with Failsafe and others on each planet being the driving force behind the quests and adventures throughout the campaign, and then everybody being at the undisclosed location by the end, I can't be the only one who didn't spend time there that Bungie's work deserves. And now it's just kind of there, which brings up the upcoming faction rally. Given that a rally is used to drum up support, then this seems like the perfect time to introduce the other factions. We know that there are other factions. They're just not part of the triumvirate in the tower. So why not put them at the farm? Maybe the rewards are small from them at the beginning, but then you gain rank with them, and it could then contribute to an overall faction score like they're doing for clans. As the faction levels up, the rewards get better, perhaps even surpassing what's available from the current 3, who initially would give you better stuff, but being established leads to complacency, hence the new hungry factions would surpass them. Just a thought that I wanted to share. Slade Steel Soul. P.S. Mark, you never tweeted your Metroid impressions. It's pretty good. Just tell you guys that.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty damn good.
Consider this my tweet. It was pretty good.
Consider this the best 3DS game ever. Eat that, Parris. I'm saying it. What do you think, Parris? What do you think of the farm not being, I guess, utilized to its full extent here?
I imagine there's going to be a purpose for it beyond what we see right now. I just can't imagine them going through all that time and effort to create this great social space, and then it's more irrelevant than the reef at this point, right?
So
you're right.
I agree.
Plus, there's all these great geometry elements that they've done to it. There's so many cool things you can do there. I'm maybe that's where factions wind up or something. I don't know, but there's going to be something with the farm eventually. I can't imagine it just going away.
Right.
Yeah.
Mike, what you got?
I'm in agreement. I don't know about whether smaller factions really start to play a role there, just because here's the weird thing. Smaller factions do exist, but they're never really even presented in the lore. Like, we know that they're a thing, but we don't even know any of them aside from the Concordat. Those guys are exiled. Like, they're not coming back unless they're fighting. So, I mean, it'd be damn cool to see. We also see some dead orbit crates in the farm, so I wonder whether there's, like, new representatives or whether that indeed is the location where they're going to be found. But there's just some very interesting questions regarding all of this. And I completely agree, though. The farm is underutilized. I feel as though for a social space that they drummed up, and I get it, like, sure, it was all a big kind of ruse because they wanted to keep the tower secret. That's all fine. That's fine and good, and I completely understand that. Having said that, I do still feel like there needs to be more utilization than just, hey, this is where you go to Tyra-Con to get stern.
Right.
Like, they can't just be that. Like, it's cool that you get an exotic from a vendor there, but that can't be it,
Yep. Yeah, I think we will see faction people there. There's definitely going to have to be a reason. I think, like, they don't want it to be, like Parris said, they don't want it to be, the one place that Xur goes every once in a while. It's the only reason you go there. But I think you're right. I think factions will come there. I'm hoping we see new factions. I'm hoping, we get a faction event. I'm hoping all of those things. And the farm would be a good place to do that. Because, yeah, you're right now. You're literally the only reason you go to the farm is for the Sturm quest. And that's pretty much it. And I was really kind of surprised by that when all of a sudden, Cade and all those guys are not at the farm anymore. It was like, okay, well, that was it. That was it.
It was all
I was really surprised by that. So it's going to be interesting to see the evolution of the farm, because as big as the buildup was for the farm, for it to be just a 1 week space to go to, that doesn't make sense. So I think we will get that. It's just going to be one of those things where it's, we're going to have to wait. Yep.
Well, speaking of Xur, we didn't even talk about Xur at all. What do you guys think of the return of Xur this week? I mean, I know a lot of people seem to be a little like, because I think people were expecting him to be bringing maybe gear of a little bit higher level, which, I think the fact that we all leveled up so fast in this game, that I don't know why anybody expected that. Like Xur always sold exotics, and in D1, those exotics were very important because leveling was so different and so dependent on the raid and things like that. Where now with Light, it's like they're never going to really give us, that gear that's really going to bump you up in Light. So really, Xur is just there to give you the exotics to fill your collection that you don't already have. So for people that didn't have Merciless, awesome for you this week. I had 2 of them. So I already had the shoulders. Didn't do me. The Doomfangs didn't do anything for me. I don't have my Hunter Warlock set up yet. So I was like, all right, well, that's cool.
So Gothalion tweeted something on this, which I completely and utterly agree with, because I think it hits the nail on the head. We learned through leaks prior to the release that Xur would be at an in-game destination. He wouldn't be at a social space. Instead, you'd find him on Nessus, Io, Titan, or the EDZ. And that's such a cool freaking idea, right? Yep. Because you can go out into the world and find them. But more importantly, they missed an opportunity there to make a real in-game event that could have just been like the thing you go out and do, right? Like the hunt for Xur in the tower every week was kind of fun because it's like, oh, where's Xur this week? You know, like it'd be the first person to post on Twitter and all that. Take that and make it into a huge community-wide hunt. Get the word out. That's cool as hell. Maybe sure, give them an indicator on the map on the last day if you really need to, but you know, say maybe even leave one cryptic thing a week and say, you know, look by the water side, and everyone's like, oh, it's on Titan, but secretly no, he's just actually in the EDZ by a body of water. Imagine that, right? Like, that's cool. You can sit there and genuinely have another puzzle that the community solves every week. That's content.
I see both sides of it. I wouldn't like. Let's say I do want to go get the stuff that Xur has. I don't really want to spend the time searching for Xur for an hour. And so what's going to ultimately happen is people are going to do what everybody has been doing for the last 3 years, and is, oh, let's just go look at Twitter and find out where Xur is and what his stuff is. And, oh, okay, so Dado says it's here, Sean says it's there. And then that's what's going to end up is just people are going to go to Twitter and find out from people or Reddit or wherever where he is and then go to it. So it's just kind of one of those, and it's an exercise in futility, I think, ultimately. So I think I'm okay with the way that they did it as far as putting him on the map. You know where he is and you go to it. I mean, but they put him up a tree, which is kind of funny.
That was pretty good.
So I'm okay with the way that they did it. I understand what you're saying is that it gives you an opportunity to have a little mini event. But at the end of the day, people are going to get sick of that stupid mini event every week. And they're going to go, all right, where's Xur? Enough. And they're just going to go look and find out where he is and go to it.
Which is fine, because the community is going to do that anyway.
Right. No, I understand both sides of it. I mean, I don't, either way, I would be happy with it. So I'm fine with how it is. And I would have been fine with what you're saying. We have to go find him either way.
Well, see, that's what my thing on it is. I understand why they're doing it, because Xur is a function to get casual players an opportunity to get exotic weapons and gear that they may not necessarily get otherwise because they're not playing. I understand the point of Xur, but my thing is, if you're going to put him out in the world, it's kind of like Bife was saying and Cathalion was saying in his tweet, make it an event, make it something every Friday at 2 a.m. whenever the reset is for Xur. Where is Xur in the world? You put a hint on the screen when you first sign in. You search the world, you find him. Sure, most people are going to wind up Googling it, but for people that stream live or whatever, you're going to have an audience built around these streamers that are looking for Xur, right? Yeah. Maybe eventually a few months down the road, everyone gets sick of it. But if you're going to take the time to put him out in the world, I think that should be something to do. Because if you're not, stick him in the middle of the tower every week. You know where he is. What's the point of searching for him then? That's kind of my thing.
Yep.
If you're just going to put a marker on him, put him in the tower.
Exactly. Let me read this email. This was from Zavbro. This is the next email we're going to do, and it's referring to this. He says, hey, guys, it's Zavbro again, reaching out to bring up an interesting topic I've seen over social media. I know you guys are having as much fun as I am in Destiny 2, and we're really excited for Xur Day number 1. I made sure to be ready this time and not miss out on possibly the next Galahorn. I've noticed a lot of content creators saying that they think Bungie missed out on an opportunity with making Xur easy to find. I actually disagree here and think Bungie did that in result of how the community was reacting to Xur at the end of Destiny 1. In the beginning, yes, it was exciting to run and find him either in the tower or the reef, but by the end of D1, we would just wake up and see where he was by either watching Dado's video or checking Reddit or Twitter. So what's the big difference with Bungie just telling us where he is now? What are your guys' thoughts on this? Keep up the good work and much love. Zabro out. So, I mean, really, what is the difference of us knowing either he's in one of two social spaces or you just look on the map and find him?
I think it's purely the fact that it was a community. Oh, wait. Oh, sorry. I'm totally rephrasing the question wrong. Ignore me. I'm so sorry.
Well, and, I mean, I think for me, it was more just, because again, I was never one of those people that went and searched for Xur. I would get up, 2 or 3 hours after he was already found. And one of the first things I do every single morning is check Twitter. And so the minute I check Twitter, I just see all those tweets from all the people we follow of he's here. Here's what he's selling. Here's his wares. And so I never was a part of that crew looking for him. So for me, whatever, it was what it was. What I was more upset about was he didn't have exotic engrams. That's what I wanted. That's what I was really looking for.
Yeah, his inventory was so limited.
And he still may bring those periodically. He may bring it next week. Who knows? But that's what I was really looking forward to, because I was hoping to get, just fill the collection, get the things that I don't have yet. And unfortunately, he brought things that I already have. And then, I didn't have the chance at that RNG slot machine pull to see if I get an exotic that I don't have.
I will say I did buy the Warlock and the Hunter piece just because I just started my Warlock. I haven't started my Hunter yet. So I did buy those. But I was disappointed with he literally only had 4 things and that's it. No extras, no engrams, no other economy, no nothing.
I mean, I thought for sure he was going to have like exotic shaders or something.
The armor I think was all underwhelming, and the reason for that is because we were all offered a choice to get one of those pieces, no matter what class you're on during the campaign, right? Titans could easily have picked up the Doomfang pauldrons as one of the first exotics they got during the campaign, and were likely to because they were one of the better ones on option there. Hunters, exactly the same. Radiant Flux, literally the only usable exotic out of the 3 that were offered near the beginning, or at least the only one that offered a tangible benefit, particularly seeing as you starved Arcstrider. And Warlocks, you want a Dawnblade exotic? Well, they sold one of your Dawnblade exotics with Xur this time, you know? It felt such a weak opening statement from Xur saying, hey, let me bring you exotics, aside from Merciless, because that's still a great weapon, and I'm glad. Like, Merciless isn't exactly the new Yalahorn, but it's still really freaking close. It's a fantastic gun.
Right.
So, could easily have been stronger, basically.
But I already had 2 of them, so I didn't care.
Exactly, right.
And I had it as I had them all as well, and so it was underwhelming, but I think it goes to the point to prove also that Bungie does not control the inventory that Xur has, because I think they
haven't mentioned that this go round. That was the one.
I think they would have come up with a better inventory if they had controlled it. I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Or it's just a sign that they're controlling the inventory for what it is. You know, they don't want to give us anything too crazy yet.
Yeah, that could be.
And then Parris is right. They're holding it to the casuals. That's the function of Xur, is for people who can't go out there and grind public events for 5 hours. You know, or run raid, or go into trials flawless. You know, that's his function. That's what he's supposed to do.
Right.
So,
according to Kotaku, is for parents.
That's right. All right, guys. Well, let's wrap it up there. Again, don't forget you can email us feedback@theguardiansofdestiny.com. Keep your thoughts coming, guys. And like I said, hopefully Sean will be back next week, because I know he will have a lot to say about the raid. I know he's been having a blast with the raid. Every time I look, the kids, he's raiding like crazy. So he's having a good time.
Told him he needs to spend more time in the bathhouse.
That's right. In the pleasure gardens is where he needs to go.
Oh God, please no! Do not leave somebody to such a terrible fate as the pleasure gardens.
Pleasure about the pleasure gardens, right? But all right. Well, Parris, thanks again, man, for joining us here. Give everybody the rundown where they can find you. You know, plug the show, plug the Twitch channel, all that good stuff.
Oh, no, absolutely. And again, thank you guys for having me on. You can find me over at Gamertag Radio. My Twitter is at Vicious696, and our website, you can find us over at gamertagradio.com or play.it/Gamertag Radio.
Beautiful. All right, bifurcated. We got anything here you want to throw out at the end?
Slight personal note on the channel. You guys know that normally at the end here I don't tend to talk YouTube, but I want to say a big thank you to everybody who got the Story of Destiny video to over 1 million views.
1 million views.
Yeah, which is
crazy.
It's crazy.
That's awesome.
After tons of critical acclaim on that thing, and then 55,000 likes, which in YouTube terms is staggering. I mean, thank you, because that's incredible. And I never imagined that kind of support would come to that kind of video. If things went well, I imagined maybe to get 1 million in like 3 months. And that was like my biggest estimation of being like, hey, if I dream big, you know. But yeah, this is damn cool. So thank you.
It was awesome.
Awesome, dude. Yeah, it's a great video for sure.
Yep.
But all right, everybody. Well, again, thank you for making us a part of your week. However you're tuning in, whether it's through Podbean, through Twitch, through YouTube. Thank you guys so much. And with that, we'll catch you next week. Later. Into a dead zone. Dead zone.
I didn't turn back.
Nice.
GG, guys. Well played.
Right.
Good podcast.